Why, hello, chat. I hope you guys managed to miss me because I haven't been streaming for a couple of days. I haven't been streaming yesterday because I was drinking with the godparents in Orthodoxy. I don't know if it's the same with Catholics. But in Orthodoxy, you have like godparents whenever you get married. Like you choose a family that you like, and they're the godparents. They have an important role within the marriage. Like every time you're having problems, you're going to them for advice. So I was drinking with them, and the night before I was getting married, so there was that. I gotta say, regarding marriage, the worst thing. So I think like Americans do it because that's the thing. Like Orthodox marriage is very different than Catholic marriage. So after you get married as a man, you're supposed to wear a ring. I think. Well, actually, I think this is the same in the United States, right? So right now, I didn't put the webcam on. I should have put it on, but I'm too tired now. I have this on my hand. It is the most uncomfortable thing. It's so weird. It's unnatural. Like it is there, and it's like I find it weird. Luckily, my wife. Oh my god, saying my wife is so weird. My wife doesn't mind if I take it off. I understand like not a lot of women do this, but successfully I have managed to tell her it's like, look, I can wear it on occasions. Like if we go out, I can put it on. If we, if we have an event bringing people over, Christmas, blah blah blah, I can put it on. But normally I don't want it on. And she is fine. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to torture you. And I'm like, yes, that is great. Yes, the ring of power. Except when I put it on, I don't become invisible. I think well, actually, like the wedding ring, maybe for women, they do become invisible. Because, like, every single time there was a woman next to me with a wedding ring on, I just didn't see her. Like, I would just, like, not. She would classify as non-interesting for me. It's like if there's like 5 women and 4 of them have wedding rings and one doesn't, I want to talk with one that doesn't. I don't know why. I can't. But that's how I used to be. Now maybe I will see the ones with wedding rings as well. Yes, I am definitely taken now. The ring does suppress my power. It acts like a power limiter. Now, let's talk a little bit about how Romania wedding is like, because I keep getting a lot of questions. So, it's a little bit different than how I notice Catholics do it. And it's also a little bit different than how Americans do it. And Protestants, right? And I am so lucky that I didn't follow all of the steps because, my God, I mean, I was so tired after the wedding. So the first thing you do is the engagement process. And the engagement in Romania is very similar to the one in the United States. You give a ring to the person that you want to engage with. And if she accepts it, right, she says yes, she takes the ring. And then you're engaged. And usually it depends from couple to couple. From what I can see, it's kind of like 1 year after the engagement that people get married. But it's not really set in stone. There's people that can get married right away, and there's people that usually wait. With me, it was a year. So after I got engaged, I waited a year until we had the actual wedding. Now, the wedding itself has several parts. So the first one is the civil union, where you go to a place that's under the city hall. I mean, under in jurisdiction. And you're going to meet a person that is going to request a folder from you. And the folder requires you to have an HIV test, a syphilis test, and I believe a chest ray for tuberculosis. Reason you're doing this is Romania's way of fighting against the AIDS epidemic. Romania was actually one of the most successful countries in the world fighting against the AIDS epidemic. And they do this in order to let the other partner know, in case one of them is sick. It's like, hey, are you sure you want to marry this partner? Like, look, he's got like health issues. In our case, it was fine. So you give that, and then they tell you to come back in a week. And in a week is the wedding ceremony, where you go with the person that you're getting married. You go in front of the civil servant. They tell you what wedding is about, like they read you from the family code, and they tell you, okay, so from now on you're going to share all the wealth, blah, 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 blah. And then they ask you if you want to take her. You say, I do. The other person says, I do. And then you're officially married. Now, with that, they give you a wedding certificate, which you take to the church. And what's interesting is that the Orthodox Church has a very, very different wedding ceremony than the Catholic Church. There is absolutely no kissing the bride. There is absolutely none of the American traditions that you expect. So the Orthodox Church, the way they do it is that they have like this ceremony where they're chanting and they're singing and they're reading from the Bible the passage where Jesus turned the water into wine. And they basically say that it's like a symbolism, because usually the best wine was served first at weddings, and then they kept the worst wine for later. But what Jesus did is that when he created the miracle by turning the water into wine, people were shocked because they considered that the best wine was kept for last. And the priest said, it's like, just like that miracle, so is marriage. Like, you will notice that in the beginning, you guys love each other, but if you actually are faithful and God blesses you, then you're going to find true love later on, and you're going to find like a much deeper love and a much deeper understanding than the one when you started. So yeah, I mean, they put some crowns on your head. They have religious symbolism as well, and after that they have like a little bit more of a tradition where you're moving around the table counterclockwise. On the table you have a picture of Jesus, and I think it's like the Holy Bible. And what they're saying is that Jesus and the scripture is at the center of things, and you're moving counterclockwise in order to symbolize that you're moving against time, and basically like you're not allowing time to destroy the love between you. All right, so this is like the table with the scripture, and then there was also a picture of Jesus. Here we go, yeah. I have to say, like, moving around the table is actually one of the most difficult things that I have ever done. And the reason for this is that the wife's dress, right, like the wedding dress, is so goddamn difficult not to step on. Throughout the whole thing, I was hyper aware on the fact that my wife is wearing this antique dress that doesn't exist nowadays, and if you step on it a little bit, you're going to leave her butt naked. So I was just like at all the times just very, very careful not to step on it. It's incredibly cumbersome. It's very difficult. It looks good in the pictures, though. I'll tell you this. It looks good in the pictures. So yeah, after that, like, the priest just pronounces you man and woman. Husband and wife. And there is no kissing. Like, you don't have to kiss anyone. You just have to kiss the Godfather's hand, apparently. Like, that's the only thing I kissed that day. All right, so after that, you get to the actual ceremony, like the dinner. Most people prefer dancing. And the ceremony is supposed to last all night. Thankfully, I didn't do that. All I had was a small table with all the guests. And we stood, I think, like 3 or 4 hours, no dancing. Believe it or not, most guests actually appreciated that. They definitely found it a lot more nice, because they could see each other and talk with each other without having like music booming in their ears. And I just want to say, if you haven't gotten married, you're going to realize that the wedding is actually for the guests and not for you. And the reason I'm saying this is because ever since it started, everyone wanted to take pictures with us. It's like, you know, that guy with the monkey. Like he goes to the monkey on the beach, and everyone wants to take picture with the monkey. Like literally, it's like that. For the first hour, every single guest, every single couple wanted a picture with the bride and the groom. And then we hired a photographer really cheap. We found one that's just starting off, so he only took, like, normally they take around €1,000, but this guy only took €100. So, you know, I said like, hey, what the fuck? And you have to spend like another hour with the photo session with that guy, and then like everyone. So there was a lot of time where we just took photos. Now, if we were supposed to actually dance, then every single person would want to dance with the bride, and every single person would want to dance with the groom. That would have happened all night. That would have been just the worst experience that I could imagine. So luckily we didn't dance. But yeah, like the wedding, in my opinion, is definitely for the guests. It's not for you. Like, you're not going to enjoy it that much. Trust me on this one. Unless you're like the most extroverted person or something. So yeah. Did you see that Rumble has live streaming with Rumble rants that are like super chats and only takes 20%? That's interesting. I don't know. I'll try it. I'll try it. Maybe I can drop some gamer words there so I can get banned on YouTube for cross-platforming banning or whatever. Yes, the broom. Absolutely, the broom. I will show pictures when they're developed, because right now I have only pictures on the phone, and they have like the eye glare, and it's kind of meh. Right. The wedding is not for the woman either. Like I'm telling you, the woman doesn't have time to have fun. Like she doesn't even have time to sit on the table. I don't know if my wife even managed to clean her plate. Like it was very, very consuming. Because again, everyone wants to spend time with the wife. Everyone wants to spend time with the husband, and it takes like uh, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So there's that. Now, honeymoon. Normally, I didn't want to go on a honeymoon because honestly, it's very difficult for me. Financially, like after a wedding, it was taxing. But um, my wife said that she doesn't wanna. However, everyone was saying like, no, you have to, like you should, because then you'll regret it. Like the wedding was super taxing, and if you go to the honeymoon, then it's a lot better. So I'll think about doing this week. Probably we're going to go. I'll probably try to record some videos before going. I'll record This Week is Stupid again on Thursday, and we're going to go somewhere cheap. Probably, I mean, I'm not going to Spain or some shit like that. No, I'm going to go somewhere in Romania. Like, there's a lot of very beautiful Romanian attractions. Like, for example, I can go here. I was looking at certain options. This is actually quite close to me. It would take around 3, maybe 4 hours to get here. Right? I mean, there are a couple of very picturesque places. A lot of mountains, a lot of cool forests. Especially now that I heard that people are chopping down the trees and the bears are coming out of the woods and they're scaring tourists. Very, very lovely time to visit. I want to experience that. But, you know, there's several places that are quite nice. And when I say cheap, I mean, it's not as expensive as if I would go to the United Kingdom or Spain or something like that. And going like 2-3 days here probably wouldn't kill me. So there we go. And then after that, I can put all of this wedding bullshit behind me, because honestly, it was very energy consuming. Let's put it like that. Thank you, Zenith. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely take the chat with me. I can definitely stream from there. I can stream from my phone. So there is that. All right. So with that said, I think we should focus a little bit on the CDC. I found it very interesting. The CDC is now trying to teach people English. Let me just find on Twitter where I saved it. Give me a second. I know it's a little bit of a dead air, but hopefully I'm going to find it in a bit. Ah, here we go. Abdi Muhammad is in the chat. Marhaban bik, Abdi. Huh? Marhaban bik. Am I doing it correctly? Or should I be like, Wassalam alaikum, Abdi Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. Congratulations with your life being fortified. My God, the word fortified has a different connotation in my head right now, but okay. I hope you two tolerate each other long enough so you'll be able to secure the future. Oh my God, I can't read that on YouTube. But I gotta say, I never had an argument with my wife in a year. I mean, we had like a couple of bickerings, but nothing major. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if that's good or not. But I think it's because we're so good, so good of a match with each other. Like, she plays video games, I play video games. She likes horror movies, I also like them. She likes anime recently. But most importantly, like, we both do our things. I spend a lot of time on the computer working my ass off to pay the debt for the house, so I require a lot of alone time. And she's also happy sitting down there, either reading books or watching Netflix. So, like, the entire day is her, like, being down there, cooking dinner, watching movies, and then she calls me, and then I eat, and then I go back. And maybe, like, late evening, we go take a stroll or do something like that, some together activity, watch a movie, and then we go to bed. So, the fact that she leaves me alone and is not very intrusive, like trying to spend forceful time with me or something like that, makes me really appreciate her. I used to have like other girlfriends which were very clingy, very needy, and I really didn't like that. I'm not having my honeymoon in Constanza because it's very, very far away from where I am. It would take, like, if I'm going to Constanza, it would have to be at least 1 week holiday. So I just want to have like one weekend in order to just say that I did it, and that's it. Free newspeak lessons. I'm reading a little bit of Arabian. I'm really curious, like, how the squiggly letters work. And why not? Like, if you're bored at a wedding and you don't have anything to do, at least learn a new word in Arabic. And today I found out it's marhaban bik. Marhaban means welcome, and apparently in Arabic you can actually say or choose not to say certain things. So you can just not say bik. You can just say marhaban. I know others, but anyway, right. Let's see. The CDC. The CDC. Look at this shit. China's youth are only allowed 3 hours of gaming per week. People are like, oh my God, that's not a bad thing. It's like, yeah, but the government is not your parent. The moment the government starts deciding how much, like, imagine a government that is like trying to micromanage every aspect of your life, including what hobbies you have. And I'm pretty sure like some people like Tactical Droid, they're masturbating over this. It's like, oh yes, oh, this is so good, such a great idea. Here in Europe, the government is trying to push vaccine passes on people. And it's saying if you don't get vaccinated, you don't go to the mall, you don't go to the restaurant, and everyone is freaking out. All the fascist friends that I know, like literally every single one that is like far right, is freaking out over this. It's like, oh my god, like why is the government wanting me to be blah blah blah? And it's like, dude, you want this shit. You want your life to be micromanaged by the government. Why are you complaining? I thought it's what you want. You don't like freedom. Why the fuck do these people think that if the government would micromanage everything, they would micromanage according to them? You're not going to be the one in charge. Someone else is going to be the one in charge. And the people in charge are probably the ones that are going to take private planes without having to social distance and mask because they're politicians, they can do that. But you will have to do what they tell you. Sorry, a little bit of a rant. I just had a conversation with a more authoritarian inclined individual before I got here. So yeah. How are they enforcing 3 hours a week? Very simple. For example, if you go on Steam, you use your personal face. Like there's actually a version of Steam China, and in order to have a Steam account, you have to first create a username, send your photo ID, and then they're going to take it to this committee, to this government body, which is going to check to see if you completed everything properly, and then you get to unlock your Steam. And if you have a phone, then what it does is that you need to use a face identification, and only you can do that. So if you play, like, for example, 2 hours on your phone, then it's being registered in a system that you played 2 hours. And if you play 1 hour on Steam, then the system registers and knows exactly how much time you spent playing games. I'm just Greg, mate. I hope you two have a fantastic life together, and I wish you all the best. I thank you, Dick. It's really nice. I'm actually want to thank everyone that donated and helped me with the wedding, because it was a very huge financial burden. But I also want to thank the ones that gave me nice wishes, and you guys sent me some of the most beautiful things, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So, are you sure that's real? Yeah, it is real, and it's coming from GameSpot. But it's not the first time that I hear about it. Regarding China, apparently if you play too many games, you lose your social credit score. And by the way, like, what China is doing isn't actually brand new. The communists in Romania, back then we didn't have video games, but we had movies and television. So what the communists would do is, like, they would shut down the television networks at around 10 p.m. because the idea was that people were supposed to go to bed anyway. So after 10 p.m., like, there was nothing on the airwaves. You couldn't watch TV. In some cases, they would even shut down electricity. So this was so that everyone is productive at work. It increases productivity because you don't spend time watching TV. You don't spend time doing anything during the night. You're supposed to sleep and get up the next day to go to work. And again, it's not that necessarily, like, some of these things aren't really bad, but I already was a child, okay? I already had a curfew when I grew up. The government isn't mommy and daddy. The government doesn't care about me. The government doesn't give a shit about me, all right? So, I don't want the government to be this intrusive in my personal life. Anyway. You could only watch half an hour of cartoons. They did not even let them finish. Yeah, like, I remember under communism, they would have, like, a cartoon, like, let's say they would put Beauty and the Beast, right? I don't think, like, back then they give a shit about intellectual property. So you'd watch, like, Beauty and the Beast at 9 p.m. And it would only show you, like, 15 minutes of Beauty and the Beast. And then you had to tune in the next day in order to see the next 15 minutes. So they could fill up, like, 2 weeks worth of Beauty and the Beast just by, like, 15 minutes today, 15 minutes tomorrow, 15 minutes. My God, like, can you imagine watching a movie like that? Like a cartoon? Holy shit, it was really horrible. I mean, now that I think about it, but back then you didn't know any better, right? Like, you thought that's how things are supposed to be. Holy crap, the pleb of reason with his fat wallet. Congratulations, V. Here's a little wedding gift for you. Thanks for the great content. Thanks, man. I'll use it in order to pay for the honeymoon. Did you hear that an American judge just stripped a parent of their right to their kid? No, I didn't. I have no idea why. I'll have to look it up. That would be pretty annoying. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say it was annoying because, like, think about it. It was really the only time you'd get cartoons. So the children program was at, and I remember it quite vividly because I was so excited watching it. It was at 9 p.m. and you'd get like 15 minutes of cartoons. And then they would just stop and you'd have to tune in again tomorrow. Now, the biggest problem was that if you missed a cartoon, an episode, the other episode didn't really make much sense because you didn't get to see what happened previously. So you'd have to ask at school like what ended up happening. But it was awful, and I don't know, like 15 minutes just left you wanting more. It would leave you unsatisfied, basically. People want me to release a wedding picture on Twitter. The problem with the wedding pictures is that they were not done by professionals, so there's a lot of eye glare. But the ones that are done by the professionals are going to be ready next month or in 2 months. That's how much they said. And after those are ready, I'll release them. All right. Let's look at the CDC because I found it to be quite interesting, right? So it's funny because, well, it's interesting because like right now when you're supposed to have, I don't know if you should say faith because, but yeah, like you should basically like trust the CDC. They're doing this thing which is very political and very divisive. So it also has nothing to do with their main objective, which is to document illnesses and then give advisory to politicians. No, but not only it was, as I mentioned before, it's like the moratorium, which was a problem because first of all, they, like, everyone knew they're not supposed to do it and they can't do it. Didn't make any sense from a health point of view. Like, they would say, oh, well, you can't evict people because there's a pandemic, but if you're a bank, you can kick people out. So it's only the individuals, like the people without power, that are not allowed to kick out a person that rents your house, even if they don't pay, even if they start destroying the property, etc., right? But if you're a bank and the person doesn't pay their mortgage, well, fuck that person, right? So that was a problem. And obviously, like, that pissed off a lot of right-wingers. But left-wingers got pissed off as well because once the judges, the Supreme Court said, no, the CDC can't do this, well, it ends up happening is that now all the people that were tenants and they said, well, I don't have to pay right now, so that's fine. Ended up realizing that, oh shit, now I'm in big trouble. Now I'm getting evicted. And the CDC is to blame. So they pissed off the left and the right. And now they're coming up with this bullshit, very Orwellian, the English plus thing, where it's like that lefty meme where you replace one word that's short and concise with walls of text. And I talked about this on my channel, but I didn't show all the words, so you don't really know just the extent of this ridiculousness. And notice that every single country in the world has, these words: inmate, prisoners, convict, ex-convict, and what they're trying to do is like remove the negative connotations from things that should have negative connotations. Like being an inmate, unless you live in a fascist regime, unless you live in a, like you have like political dissidents or people being arrested because of their ethnicity or things that they're born as, right? But that's not the case in the United States, now is it? So it should have negative connotation if you break the law. Like, there is a reason that the way we learned in law school is that prison has two major components. One of the components is the suffering, and it's important that people who break the law, quote unquote, suffer, not only so that they remember the next time they commit a crime, hey, you're going to go back into that awful place if you keep doing it, but it's also a disincentive for the rest of the population. So you have people that would want to commit a crime, but then they realize it's like, okay, if I do it, I'm going to end up in a prison, and I heard it's really bad there, so I would rather not do it. So it needs to have a negative connotation, the idea of being an inmate. Because you did something wrong. You broke the rules. You broke the law. Right? But they want to say it's like people who are incarcerated or detained. I mean, if you say people who are incarcerated, well, people who are detained, I mean, you can't be detained just because you are accused of something and you can be innocent, right? So the entire negative connotation is now removed from the word inmate. Like, for example, let's say you match the photo of a suspect of a crime, right? So what the cops are going to do is they're going to detain you, and then they find out, okay, this is not the guy, they're going to release you. So being detained is really not having the same negative connotation as being an inmate or a prisoner. And then like partner child of an incarcerated person. Person in pre-trial or with charge. People who are formerly incarcerated, I guess it's like the criminal, are people who are former. What? Why would I even say? Who talks like no one in the world, in any language around the planet Earth, no one says it's like people who are formerly incarcerated. They always say it's like ex-criminal or ex-convict, right? And this is like outside of the English language. I'm telling you this because I speak many languages. I speak a little bit of German. I speak Romanian. I speak English. I think I speak a little bit of Russian. Right? All of these do not use like people who are formerly incarcerated. No one uses this. And I don't give a fuck if I offend ex-criminals, by the way. You know, it's like, oh, be less offensive, like be inclusive. I don't want to be inclusive with criminals. They're criminals. They committed a crime. Now, of course, you know, a person can try to pay their debt to society and then reintegrate, which is fine, but they're still an ex-criminal. They're still like, the one good deed doesn't erase the bad, in my opinion. They're still like a warning to others. Hey, don't commit a crime, because like this guy, you know, he's an ex-criminal. He's going to tell you how bad it was in prison. Non-US citizen or immigrants in immigration detention facility. In my opinion, like all of this is about immigration, right? Like all of this is about these two things, like leftist talking point. And they're talking about all the others in order to distract you that this is actually what they give a shit about, right? So, an organization like the CDC, which is supposed to be as neutral as possible, because you want the person that voted Republican and the person that voted Democrat to have faith in your institution. They're now being as politically divisive as possible, because the Republicans, right, they don't think that immigration is good. They don't think that prisoners are good. They don't think that convicts are a positive. So you're being very divisive. And the problem with this is that now when you're going to issue a guideline for something, well, the right-wingers are going to go, well, do I trust this institution? Because it seems to be staffed by left-wing people. And are the left-wing people just talking about the science, or are they interpreting it from their perspective? And I said, because like there's a lot of leftists out there. And by the way, the difference between right-winger and left-winger is that the right-winger puts emphasis on family and they trust themselves and their judgment more. Left-wingers trust institutions more. And I told a left-winger, it's like, okay, so if an institution was staffed by racists, like you would look on Twitter and you would see that they're posting racist shit, would you have faith in that institution? And the answer is no, right? Because the moment they find out that a teacher is racist or a cop is racist, they try to get them fired. Honestly, maybe they have a point. I don't know. But in this particular case, it's the same thing. If you're going to show that an institution is overwhelmingly left-leaning and is talking about something else than it's supposed to be talking about, people are going to stop trusting it as much. Holy shit, HK9410. My God, dude, like, how chubby is your wallet, huh? Thank you. I definitely will now. Tim Pool made a video on the case. I haven't watched Tim Pool in a bit because I've been busy with my wedding, but I'll try to see. Try to see what he had to say. If you add Aki at the end of salam alaikum. It means peace upon you, brother. I knew this. If you add sari, so salam alaikum sari, it means father-in-law. Yeah, but my father-in-law is Christian. Why would I give him a heretical greeting? I'm not getting a monitor for the chat. I literally don't have a place to put it. So let's look at what else. So disabled, differently abled, afflicted, handicapped, confined to a wheelchair. So what I find interesting, right, is that the words constantly change. So when I grew up and I watched Hollywood when I was a kid, and again, like, English is not my main language, it used to be the word crippled, right? So this is a person that's crippled. If you look at South Park, they also had like cripple fight and whatnot. So I learned that crippled is actually now considered to be offensive. Okay. Now I don't know why. I generally like don't know if like the entire community of disabled people didn't like being called this. I don't know who decreed it. I don't even know like who decides like, okay, this is a problematic word. But it is, right? So the next word was disabled. Now disabled is a problem. So why should I even bother using this? Like, why can't I get the next update, the next patch? Because I'm curious. Like at one point, these are also going to be a problem. And I mentioned, it's like, look, instead of saying disabled, people with disabilities or how the fuck is this different? Who comes up with this shit? Like, I am willing to do an investigation on this. Like, I'm genuinely curious, like, who came up with these and how much did they get paid for? I bet that they get paid more than you get paid. Like, I bet this job, like, can you imagine what a tough job it is to come up with, like, newspeak? So instead of disabled, we need to say people with disabilities. How is it different? Like, and I'm willing to bet, all right? Like, I will even put money on this. Go right now. Well, actually, maybe you can't right now because of COVID. But if I were to ask you to go in a hospital 2 years ago and ask people in a wheelchair, hey, do you have a problem with people that would refer to you as a disabled person, like in law? Like, for example, if I make a legislation, I say disabled people should get this much amount of money, welfare from the state. Do you have a problem with that? I am willing to bet that not a single person would have said that they have a problem. Not to mention, like, differently abled. What? Is that... Like, if your monitor, let's say, shuts down, right? You would say that the monitor got disabled. You wouldn't say that the monitor is now differently able because it's got like a different ability of not being turned on. So a person that can't see, yes, he has a disability. He can't see. Now, I know it's not, like something that's desirable. It's not a compliment or anything. It's just a state of being. Again, like, this is not just in English, all right? Like, other languages don't have to deal with this shit. Like, other language, believe it or not, in Romanian, the same words we used 30 years ago to describe people in wheelchairs are the same words we use now. And I generally, like, don't understand the problem because they will say, well, maybe it's because of discrimination. It's like, look, in the West, right now, in English-speaking nations, you even have access for people with wheelchairs. And I don't think a single person is against it. Like, people with wheelchairs get treated better than homeless people. Why? Because, well, for example, I've seen the government make spikes under bridges so homeless people can't sleep under. But at the same time, city council makes parking lots for people on wheelchair. They make special accommodations for people on wheelchair. I think it's a good thing that they do this. I just wish they would care about the homeless more. But whatever, neither here nor there. My problem is that I don't see any person complaining about these things. Like, these are genuine. Like look at this. This is a leftist term because of how long it is. It's a wall of text. Confined to a wheelchair or wheelchair bound. Right? It used to be, as I mentioned, like South Park used to say, crippled, but that is not politically correct. So now you would say person in a wheelchair. But apparently you shouldn't. You should say people who use wheelchair or mobility devices. How the fuck is it different? You're basically saying that the person that is like so fat, like, and this is like an American thing, right? I think South Park also made fun of it. Like, we're not talking about like a person that's chubby or no. Like a person that just can't walk, right? And they go to the Walmart and they take a mobility scooter or something like that. And you're now putting them in the same category because like this category is going to overlap with the people confined to a wheelchair. People who are deaf or hard of hearing or who are blind or have low vision. Can you imagine? Like, look at these walls of text. What is with the left and their complete fascination with walls of text? Yeah. Special Olympics is happening now. I didn't know this. Do people watch Special Olympics? I've never watched a single one. I gotta say, I mean, it's probably a sport of its own. I mean, playing basketball while in a wheelchair is probably incredibly difficult. I wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, just how do you turn around, right? Because like when you're walking, you can easily turn around. But if you're in a wheelchair, like the act of turning is actually a little bit more difficult. Yeah, no, it's actually no, seriously. I have a lot of respect for people that play Special Olympics. I mean, it's especially like the wheelchair category must be pretty difficult. Oh, it's Paralympics is what they call it. All right. People say it's not special. I don't know. The only thing I know about Special Olympics is that I seen it in South Park, and then I found out it's a real thing. So I just have mad respect for the people that do that, you know. And it's also like a good thing for society because it helps people just not give in to depression. It's like, well, there's still other things you can do. It's like, hey, instead of being depressed, why don't you focus on being the best at, you know, playing basketball, even though you have limitations that other people don't. What's in the past is retroactively offensive so that anyone can be canceled. I actually remember about, I forgot who did the oh yeah, Amy Coney Barrett. So Amy Coney Barrett, when it was at the Supreme Court hearings, she said something like this person, oh yeah, she said sexual orientation rather than saying sexual preference. Right. So instead of, no, sorry, she said sexual preference rather than sexual orientation. And everyone freaked out. And I remember like even a dictionary changed the definition and Wikipedia changed their definition in order to make her look like a bigot. Because apparently they would say, well, it's not a preference, right? You don't prefer. No, it's an orientation because you're getting born that way. And first of all, like that's not entirely true because I know people who are genetic identical twins, right? So the exact same DNA. One of them happens to be gay, the other one isn't. So the idea that you're born that way doesn't really hold weight. But at the same time, I also can't choose to be gay, right? I'm not attracted to it. So there must be something in between. Must be something. It's not entirely a choice, but you're not even born that way. So it must be like, I guess you have certain conditions like diabetes, for example, where you have like a predisposition to it, but unless you get exposed to certain environmental factors, like eat a lot of sugar, you don't get it. So maybe it's like that. I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is that the idea that saying it's a preference is actually true. I mean, yeah, I prefer women, right? That doesn't mean that it's like when you eat food, right? I really don't like eating cheese. I hate cheese, right? So I don't say like I have an orientation against cheese or I have already. No, it's like I prefer not to eat cheese. You can eat it if it's being stuffed there. Like, you're not going to die if you have it, right? But it's still a preference. Now, just because it's a preference doesn't mean you have control over it. Like, if you like vanilla ice cream over chocolate ice cream, doesn't mean you can choose or have like switch your preference. But again, it's the bastardization of the English language. Like, they're pretending they don't know what the person is saying just to try to get offended. Yeah, I hate cheese. I don't like cheese. I don't know. It's like everyone likes it. I don't like it. It's just drop it. You know, every single time people talk about food preferences, like, oh my god, you hate that, and then I'm pretty sure you have something that you like that I don't, and vice versa. Not even grilled cheese. Get the fuck away with the cheese. I'm not. No. Yeah. Instead of like, this is something that I never understand. It's like you go with the person and you tell them, it's like, look, I hate chocolate ice cream. I don't get the point of it. All right, it's not sweet. It actually tastes bitter. It's on ice cream. Why would I want bitter ice cream, right? And there's people like, oh my god, you don't like chocolate. What is wrong with you? It's like, motherfucker, there's more for you then. Like, I'm not touching it. That means that literally in the world there's going to be more ice cream because I don't touch it. Eating something you don't like, you can be indoctrinated into liking it. I don't know if it really works that way. I mean, I suppose, like, no, probably not. Like, when I was a kid, my grandma really wanted me to like liver, and I don't like liver up till this day. It's disgusting. I don't get it. But there are cases where, like, yeah, like I used to have foods that I didn't like that I like now, and vice versa. But then again, I also met gay people who became bi and then became straight. So even, you know, like, if you want to compare like a sexual preference with a preference for food, I can get the parallels going. All right, I'll make you a mod, you cheapskate. Really? $2 for a wrench? My God. I would have given you for free. You didn't have to. Although you keep giving me Disclose TV tweets, I already followed Disclose TV. I'm aware, but it's a different subject now. We're talking about something else. Liver pate is good. Yeah, liver pate is actually good. We actually had this joke when I was at the hospital. It was let's do an X-ray to see the pate. Yeah. No, sorry, not an X-ray. Let's do an ultrasound to see the pate. Yeah. Wrench is now worthless. It's okay, Big Daddy. I'll de-wrench everyone eventually, and then I'll wrench people again. Anyway. So this was the really interesting one, and then we go to removing negative connotations from alcoholic and abusers to drug users, addicts, and drug abusers. So this is done in order to promote inclusivity, right? I guess, like, to make abusers feel included. Why the fuck would I want to make alcoholics and abusers feel the fuck included? Do you know how many people at the hospital, like women I have seen, being beaten senseless with broken ribs because they were married to an abused alcoholic? And then you're like, are you sure you don't want to press charges to the cops? Are you sure? No, yes, I don't want to. I love him. And I'm like, you know what? I definitely do believe that the feminine mind is a mystery, an enigma. I couldn't understand it. No, seriously, like, it broke my heart. There was, like, this very sweet old lady, 3 broken ribs, 4th time in the hospital in the last 3 years because her husband beat her senseless. And last time she beat her with the blunt edge of the axe. So not the sharp one, like in reverse. And I'm thinking, like, what the fuck, you know? And it's like, there's nothing you can do about it because she doesn't want to press charges. And yeah, So I need to now feel that we should include the alcoholics and the abusers. Person with substance use disorder, with alcohol use disorder. No, it's a fucking drunkard, all right? I will draw a line when it comes to political correctness when you're talking about alcoholics and abusers. Now, I just want to make absolutely sure that people understand, right? I'm not against people drinking. Like, by all means, drink your liquor if you know that you can take it. But if you know, like, you're having a problem, like if you drink liquor and then you do violent shit, or you're being as the left likes to put it, a toxic person, then keep the fuck away from the bottle. All right? I don't care what you do. You find Jesus, you find a rehab center, you find something, and you keep the fuck away from the bottle. And not to mention, like, yeah, smokers. Now smokers are discriminated. I bet the person who wrote this was a fucking smoker. Instead of using homosexual, you should use LGBTQ. Why the fuck would I use LGBTQ? Why would I bring the transgenders into this shit if I'm just talking about the gays? I love it. It's like, no, you can't talk about the gay. You need to talk about LGBTQIA too. No, like, I'm specifically talking about them. Fuck. You're not allowed to. I mean, it depends on the conversation. If I want to talk about the transgenders, I'll talk about the transgenders. If I want to talk about the gays, I'll talk about gays. Why would I talk about all of them? Using MSM, men who have sex with men, as shortened for sexual orientation to describe men who self-identify as gay, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck uses MSM? I've never heard. Is this what the mainstream media means? Like, men having sex with men? Is this what they do at CNN? It makes sense now. Transgender, transsexual. Why is the CDC so passionate about this? In the middle of a pandemic, nonetheless. I mean, if they would do this like 2 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, they're probably bored stiff at the CDC. They got literally nothing to do. But this is what they're doing. Instead of saying biologically male or female, I should say queer? What? Doesn't even make sense. So if I'm a doctor and I want to talk about prostate cancer, don't I need to talk about biologically women? Sorry, biologically men? My bad. Oh, Jesus Christ. See, I'm getting confused. Maybe this is the point. Huh? Gender abolitionists, they call it. Instead of hermaphrodite, you should use trans. It doesn't make sense. Oh, you should say assigned male, female at birth instead of biological. Oh, fuck off. Only in America. Like, here in Eastern Europe, we don't use this. Fuck me. How do we function as a society, huh? Gender binary language when not necessary. Yeah, talk about being exclusionary to the Spanish or the Germans. There are languages that are gendered by default. Like, literally every word is gendered in Romanian. My cock has a gender. I'm not kidding. It's actually feminine for some reason. The cock is a feminine gender. But yeah, so in Romanian, every noun has a gender. And it can be feminine, masculine, or neutral. So, for example, the table is feminine gendered. It's kind of like Spanish. Like, anyone who speaks Spanish gets it. People who speak Deutsch get it. Like, this is such an American bullshit. Like, the gender abolitionist. Maybe you can abolish it from, I don't know, the United States. But even then, you know what I find very fascinating? It's like they will say we need to abolish gender because gender leads to oppression. Why don't they want to abolish race? What is the race abolitionist movement? Oh, they don't, because that's their best grift, isn't it? Did you notice that, right? And they will always say blah, 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 transgender. It's like, no, like the actual classical transgenders, by the way, are people who want to transition, because it's in the name, right? It's transitioning. So they want to transition their gender, so from one to another. But you want to abolish gender. I don't think the transgenders genuinely enjoy that. At least not the ones that I talk with. And I believe it or not, I have money donated to me on Patreon by transgender people, so I can't be that bad. Congratulations to you and your new wife, says Tim Cornish. As most men do, you punched above your class. I don't get why people keep saying I punched above my class. Like, if I showed you some of my ex-girlfriends, you would realize that I have been on a steady uphill climb ever since I started dating. It's kind of true, though. I started dating very late. I started dating after I finished law school. So I was kind of a late bloomer because I was playing a lot of World of Warcraft and I was sitting indoors all the time. But when I started dating, like, all of the women that I dated, I would consider above a 7. Obviously, my wife is above a 10. But no, it's not that I want to brag or anything. But like, what I want you guys to understand, and this is actually with what I'm going to end the stream. Looks don't matter. Money matters, but not that much. The only thing that matters is if you can make the girl laugh, you make the girl feel safe, and you actually have a hobby or a passion, something that you do, but you do it well. So the reason I say money matters a little bit is because we live in the world of Tinder, and you're going to compete with other men that have their shit together. So, for example, if you live with your parents or you live in a dorm, it's going to be very difficult to go with a woman who can choose a man that has his own car and his own place. So having your own place, even if you rent it, means a lot. Having a car actually helps. And then, like, having life goals and life aspiration is the most important. So if you're a guy that has no life aspiration and no life goals, you're not going to get far. But if you actually tell her a story, it's like, yeah, I'm planning this and I want to do this in the future, and I'm trying to, like, even if you're a plumber, right? Like, if you're a plumber and you tell the girl, it's like, yeah, I'm a plumber and I'm planning to start my own business maybe in 5 or 6 years. Like, I have a couple of friends that were really good at plumbing and we're earning good money and blah, blah, blah. She's going to like that. Versus if you're like, well, I'm a plumber and what's your aspiration? Oh, not much. I just want to plumb. Right? And of course, it depends on the social status. So if you're a plumber, for example, it's very unlikely you will get a girl with a high school degree, but you can get a housewife or you can get a waitress or something. These things matter, believe it or not, like the social status. And the social status is usually dictated by the job you're in. So let me show you, like for example, a uniform, like this. See if I can bring it up. So if you have a uniform from a respectable profession, whether it is a firefighter or whether it is a doctor or stuff like that, if you put it on your Facebook and you're generally part of that profession, this is aphrodisiac for women, believe it or not. Like they legitimately like this, seeing like a man that does a manly job and is wearing a clean uniform. So soldier, firefighter, doctor, even lawyer, like anything that has a uniform that's recognizable, and you're doing a job that has prestige, usually like something that may be dangerous or something that involves saving lives. I used to be a street fighter. Describing what breaking bones sounds like made my wife feel quite safe. But here's the thing. One of the biggest problems that I think men have in the West is because they listen to Western culture. Western culture right now values harmlessness. Like, they believe harmlessness is a virtue. And if you're the type of the man that, like people call soy boy, like the man that goes in a fetal position, sucking his thumb, you're not going to have much luck in finding a significant other, because women aren't attracted to that. Women are attracted to masculinity. And it's very simple to just pick up some romance novels that women like. 50 Shades of Grey, Twilight. I know they're very cringy for men and they don't like it, but you're going to notice that they have something in common, right? The main character is good looking. He does bodybuilding. He is very charismatic, confident. He has his shit together. He's got a plan for the future. He takes initiative. But usually, it's also a man that's very violent to others, but very protective to the one girl. Like, he's very sweet to the girl that he likes, and he channels his aggression outside. And that's what women like. You know, like toxic masculinity outside, but very nice and comforting to the woman that he likes. That's at least my take. You know, yeah. I mean, like think about it. Violence right now in the West. And by the way, I'm not glorifying or inciting to it, but what I'm saying is that violence is usually viewed as always a negative. But that's not true. Like, violence in self-defense is viewed as a positive in almost every culture around the world. I mean, if you're with your wife and let's say a dog jumps at you, you know, like you're not going to hide behind your wife's skirt. Like, she's not going to respect you if you do that. No, you're going to position yourself instantly between your wife and the vicious dog, and you're going to try to defuse the situation by any means necessary. Like, there are times when harmlessness doesn't cut it. Of course, you know, like, let's say a homeless person tries to mug your wife. If you can diffuse the situation by talking, it's nice. But if you can't use words, then yeah, it's expected that you're going to diffuse the situation by any means necessary before the cops arrive. Yeah, the word I'm looking for is virtue. Yeah. He beats up everyone except the girl. Well, no, it's like being aggressive doesn't mean you beat people up, right? Like, being aggressive can simply mean that you're trying to impose respect, like you're taking control of every situation. You're trying to be a leader, you know, like that type of thing. It's a little bit more than what I can say in a small stream. But anyway, right, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate the donations. Yeah, assertive is what I wanted to say. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the donations. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.